Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on quite a fascinating exploration into the origins of meditation. It's a practice that feels so relevant now, but its roots, well, they stretch back millennia.
They certainly do.
You provided this really rich collection of sources that look into its history, the development, and just the incredible diversity of approaches within Eastern traditions.
Yeah.
Our goal today is really to unpack that foundational knowledge, give everyone listening a clear sense of where these powerful techniques first came from and maybe why they still hold such sway.
Absolutely. And think of this as, well, setting the stage. We're planning a much longer journey together on this topic. Yeah. Understanding these, let's say, initial chapters in the story is really key to appreciating its enduring impact.
Yeah, its impact on human thought, well-being, everything, really.
Exactly.
And our geographical focus is quite broad, isn't it? It reflects how these ideas spread and adapted. We're starting in India, which is often seen as the wellspring.
The source for many of these practices.
And then we'll journey eastward, looking at China, Japan, Tibet. And we'll touch on the unique expressions in Southeast Asia, too. It's quite something, seeing how this core idea blossoms so differently.
It really is. But what's also striking, and I think we'll see this, is that despite all these different regional styles, there are these fundamental threads that kind of weave them all together.
Okay.
And, as you mentioned, their ongoing popularity today, it speaks volumes. Understanding where it all began gives you a much richer context for how meditation is practiced now, and maybe helps find a deeper personal connection to it.
Okay, brilliant. Let's really get into it then, starting in India, where so many of these practices seem to have taken root. The material you shared makes it really clear how deeply meditation was ingrained in Hindu spiritual life right from the earliest stages.
Absolutely. If you go way back to the ancient Vedic texts, you find the earliest sort of hints of contemplative practices. But it's really with the Upanishads, those profound philosophical texts from around 800 to 200 BCE, that we see dhyana, the Sanskrit term we generally translate as meditation, becoming more formally discussed.
And the Upanishads link dhyana to this huge idea, the unity of Atman and Brahman. Can you maybe elaborate on what that means for us?
Sure. So think of Atman as your innermost self, like your individual soul or essence. And Brahman is the ultimate reality, the universal consciousness, the fabric of everything.
Correct.
The Upanishads propose that these two, the individual selves and the universal reality, aren't actually separate. They're fundamentally one. And dhyana, meditation, is presented as a key way to directly experience that connection.
So looking inward to find the universal.
Precisely. Looking within to discover your inherent link to something vast.
This is where it starts to feel more structured for me with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. That text, around the 2nd century BCE, it seems to really codify meditation, almost like a manual for the mind.
That's a great way to put it. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras outline Raja Yoga, sometimes called the royal path. And meditation is absolutely central to its eightfold path, the Ashtanga. It's not just sitting quietly, it's a whole system.
Right, a system for self-discipline, spiritual realization.
Exactly.
And those initial stages of the path, the ethical disciplines, yama and yama, the physical postures, asanas, and breath control, pranayama, how do they actually prepare the ground for meditation itself?
Well, think of them as essential foundations. The ethics, the yamas and niyamas, they aren't just rules. They cultivate inner and outer harmony, reducing the mental noise and conflict that really get in the way of meditating effectively.
Makes sense.
The asanas, the postures, are about finding a stable, comfortable seat so the body isn't a distraction. You need that steadiness.
Right.
And pranayama, breath control, is crucial for calming the nervous system, focusing the mind, creating that mental clarity you need for deeper concentration. They all work together.
Creating the optimal conditions internally and externally. And the ultimate aim, according to the sutras, is samadhi. What exactly is that state like?
Samadhi. It's often described as this state of profound absorption, intense focus, and deep bliss. Imagine your constant internal chatter just dissolving.
Wow.
Offering a direct experience of reality, unfiltered by your usual thoughts. It's not just feeling good, it's a fundamental shift in perception, a state of unity and insight. It's often seen as the peak of practice in Hinduism.
So what specific techniques would someone practicing Hindu meditation use to work towards that?
The sources point to several key methods. Mantra repetition, or japa, is common, rhythmically chanting sacred sounds or words to focus the mind inward.
Okay.
There's visualization, too, creating mental images of deities or spiritual concepts, again, to concentrate awareness. And then the really fundamental one, Breath awareness,
Hmm.
just paying attention to the natural rhythm of your breath. It's a powerful anchor.
Right.
All these techniques, in their own ways, aim to quiet the mind's fluctuations and move towards moksha, spiritual liberation, which is a central goal in Hinduism.
That gives a really clear picture for Hinduism. Now let's shift to Buddhism. Also originated in India, as our sources note, but a bit later, around the 5th century BCE. And meditation seems absolutely core there too, maybe even more so.
Without a doubt. I mean, the origin story of Buddhism itself revolves around meditation. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, is said to have reached enlightenment while meditating under the Bodhi tree.
So it's baked in from the very beginning.
Absolutely. It's seen as the direct path to awakening.
And the materials mention two main types of Buddhist meditation, vipassana and samatha. Can you clarify the difference?
Sure. Samatha translates roughly as calm abiding. It focuses on developing concentration, mental stillness, often using a single object like the breath to quiet the mind, develop peace and focus.
Okay, calm first.
Right. Then vipassana, which means something like insight meditation, often builds on that calm. You then turn your attention to the flow of sensations, thoughts, emotions, observing them with this non-judgmental awareness.
To see things clearly.
Exactly. To gain insight into the impermanent, interconnected nature of reality.
The sources also show how these two get emphasized differently in various Buddhist branches. Let's start with Theravada Buddhism, common in Southeast Asia. It seems vipassana is really central there.
That's absolutely correct. In Theravada, the focus is heavily on vipassana as the main way to develop insight into those fundamental truths: impermanence, suffering, non-self. It involves this very detailed, systematic observation of the body, feelings, mind, mental phenomena.
As they arise and pass away.
Precisely. Perceiving reality clearly without the usual distortions of our reactions and interpretation.
Okay. Then we have Mahayana Buddhism, spreading into East Asia. The material highlights Zazen in Zen Buddhism. How does that fit in?
Right. Zazen, literally seated meditation, is central to Zen. While Zen comes from Mahayana, it developed this distinct emphasis on direct experience, sometimes called sudden awakening.
Sudden awakening.
Yes. Zazen can involve just sitting, aware of the breath, but it also often uses things like kozans.
Ah, yes, the paradoxical riddles.
Exactly. They're designed to break down our usual ways of thinking, our reliance on logic, to lead to this intuitive understanding beyond the intellect.
And then going back a step geographically, but maybe forward in complexity, Vajrayana Buddhism in Tibet. Sounds unique with its visualizations and rituals.
Yes, Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism uses a very rich toolkit. Elaborate visualizations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas reciting powerful mantras, sacred sounds, intricate rituals.
What's the goal with all that?
The idea is to accelerate the path to enlightenment by working directly with the subtle energies of the mind and body. These practices are seen as potent tools for transforming consciousness, for actively cultivating enlightened qualities within yourself.
So looking across all these Buddhist schools, Theravada, Zen, Vajrayana, what's the common thread, the overarching aim of meditation?
Well, while the methods differ, the goal is pretty consistent. Cultivate wisdom and compassion, and ultimately achieve liberation from suffering. Whether it's through Vipassana's insight, Zen's direct awakening, or Vajrayana's transformative practices, the core drive is to understand existence deeply and alleviate suffering for oneself and, importantly, for all beings.
Okay, that gives us a strong foundation in the Indian traditions. Now let's journey east to China. How did meditation interact with Daoism there, and how did Buddhism blend in?
This is where the story gets really interesting. You see this fascinating interplay. Daoism, with its focus on living in harmony with the Tao, the fundamental flow of the universe already had its own deep practices of inner cultivation.
Right, and the sources mention Zhuang's sitting and forgetting. That sounds quite profound. What's involved?
Zhuang is essentially about letting go of conceptual thought, the ego. It's this practice of intentionally emptying the mind of thoughts, desires, even the sense of striving. The aim is to reach a state of natural spontaneity, unity with the Tao, allowing for that effortless action, wu wei.
Wu wei, effortless action. That's key in Daoism, isn't it?
Very much so.
The material also brings up Nidin, or inner alchemy. That sounds a bit more intricate.
It is, yes. Nidin is generally seen as a more advanced practice. It focuses on working with the body's vital energies, the qi. Using specific techniques, visualization, breath control, internal methods, practitioners aim to refine and transform this qi. The ultimate goal could even be spiritual immortality, or certainly enhanced health and longevity.
And we can't really talk Taoist practices without mentioning Qigong. Seems like it bridges movement and stillness quite nicely.
Exactly. Qigong is a broad term for practices combining movement, breath work, and focused intention or meditation. It's all about cultivating and balancing qi flow for health, vitality, spiritual growth. It really embodies that Taoist holistic view, body, energy, mind, all connected.
So the emphasis in Taoism seems very much on harmony, aligning with nature's flow.
Yeah.
Now, how did Buddhism fit in when it arrived in China? This led to Chan Buddhism, right?
Yes, the emergence of Chan Buddhism around the 6th century CE is this amazing example of synthesis. Chan took core Buddhist ideas, especially meditation and direct experience, and skillfully blended them with Taoist concepts like naturalness, spontaneity, that directness of insight.
And Zazen, seated meditation, remains central in Chan, just like in its Indian roots, maybe with a slightly different feel.
Yes, Zazen is fundamental to Chan, but there is a very strong emphasis on the direct transmission of insight, often suggesting you could bypass extensive scripture study or elaborate rituals. The main thing is realizing your own inherent Buddha nature through the direct experience of meditation itself.
The Platform Sutra of Huineng gets mentioned as being key here, particularly pushing the idea of sudden enlightenment.
Absolutely. The Platform Sutra is foundational. Huineng, the sixth patriarch, really emphasized that enlightenment wasn't necessarily gradual, but could happen suddenly, a direct realization in meditation. This resonated with Taoist ideas of spontaneous awakening.
And Chan is noted for its minimalist approach, influencing mindfulness in daily life, something we hear a lot about today.
Precisely. Chan really pushed the idea of being fully present not just in formal sitting, but in all activities, eating, walking, working, integrating meditative awareness into everyday life. That's a clear historical root for many contemporary mindfulness practices. And as you noted, this approach heavily influenced Zen when it traveled to Japan.
Perfect segue. Let's move on to meditation in other Eastern traditions beyond India and China, starting with Zen Buddhism in Japan.
Right. So Zen is the Japanese evolution of Chan, and Zazen remains absolutely central. But Zen in Japan developed its own unique flavor, its own aesthetics and specific practices.
We still see Zazen with stillness, breath focus, but the koans seem particularly distinctive in Zen. What's the idea behind those paradoxical questions?
Koans. They are these seemingly illogical questions or stories given by a teacher. They're not meant to be solved rationally. The point is to exhaust the analytical mind, break down dualistic thinking, and provoke an intuitive leap, a direct insight, what's called satori.
A sudden flash of enlightenment.
Kind of, yes. A way to bypass the intellect for deeper awareness.
And Zen's influence in Japan went way beyond monasteries, didn't it? Into the arts and culture.
Oh, absolutely. Zen's focus on presence, mindfulness, this state of no mind, free from preconceptions, deeply impacted Japanese arts. Think of the tea ceremony, calligraphy, flower arranging, even martial arts. These became ways to embody Zen principles, fostering focus, discipline, present moment awareness.
Fascinating. Now let's shift to Tibetan Buddhism. We touched on its Vajrayana roots. It sounds like meditation is really woven into complex rituals and visualizations there.
Yes, in Tibetan Buddhism, meditation is often part of this rich tapestry. Deity yoga is a key practice, visualizing yourself as a Buddha or Bodhisattva, embodying their enlightened qualities like compassion or wisdom. It's not just imagination, it's seen as a powerful way to transform your own mind.
The sources also mention Dzogchen and Mahamudra as more advanced teachings. What's their focus?
Dzogchen and Mahamudra are considered very high direct teachings. They both focus on directly recognizing the mind's true nature, this inherent clarity, emptiness, luminosity that's always present beneath our thoughts and experiences. The goal is to realize this fundamental nature directly, leading to profound liberation.
And mantras and mandalas are also highlighted in Tibetan practice. What roles do they play?
Exactly. Mantras, as we said, are sacred sounds used to focus the mind, invoke energies, connect with enlightened beings. Mandalas are intricate diagrams, often representing the cosmos or deities. They act as visual aids for meditation, helping concentration, creating a sacred space, facilitating inner transformation.
Okay. Finally, let's look at Vipassana in Southeast Asia. It sounds like the Theravada tradition there really preserved the core insight meditation teachings from the Buddha.
Yes, the Theravada tradition, particularly in countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, places a strong emphasis on the systematic practice of Vipassana as the direct path. There's often a focus on intensive retreats, developing moment-to-moment mindfulness of breath, body, thoughts, emotions.
With the goal of understanding impermanence, suffering, non-self.
Exactly. Deeply understanding the nature of existence through direct observation.
And the material mentions how teachers like S.N. Goenka helped spread this globally.
That's absolutely right. Figures like Goenka were pivotal in bringing Theravada Vipassana to a worldwide audience, making these ancient techniques accessible far beyond their original cultural context.
It's truly amazing the sheer diversity we've covered, yet as we've gone through them, it does seem like there are these fundamental unifying themes running through all these Eastern traditions.
Absolutely. Despite all the differences in culture, history, specific techniques, you find these core principles and aspirations showing up again and again.
Let's quickly highlight those. The first one seems to be the pursuit of enlightenment, even if it's called moksha in Hinduism, nirvana in Buddhism, or unity with the Tao.
Exactly. The underlying drive is to transcend ordinary limited consciousness, to realize some ultimate truth or liberation, to move beyond suffering towards lasting freedom and insight.
And another huge one, mindfulness and awareness. Paying attention to the present moment without judgment or getting swept away.
That's really a cornerstone, developing that capacity to just observe thoughts, feelings, sensations as they come and go without reacting or identifying. It's consistently seen as key to understanding yourself in reality.
The pursuit of inner peace and harmony also feels universal across these traditions.
Yes, cultivating tranquility, emotional balance, harmony within oneself and with the world, quieting the mental chatter, developing self-awareness, it naturally leads towards a more stable inner peace.
And lastly, there's often this link between meditation and ethical, compassionate living.
Indeed. Many traditions see meditation as intrinsically connected to moral conduct and developing compassion. Think of Buddhist metta, loving-kindness meditation, intentionally cultivating warmth and care for oneself and others. It highlights that inner transformation and how we treat the world are deeply linked.
It's really striking how these common threads point to this sort of universal human longing for peace, understanding, a more meaningful way of being.
Precisely. They underscore the profound, enduring value of meditation as a tool for transformation and growth, transcending specific cultural or religious boxes.
So as we wrap up this initial exploration, this deep dive has shown us this incredibly rich, varied history of meditation in the East, from ancient India right through China, Japan, Tibet, Southeast Asia. Listeners should now have a good foundational sense of the core ideas and the unique ways they manifested.
And understanding these origins, as we've said, provides really valuable context for appreciating meditation today. Its current popularity isn't just a trend, it's rooted in centuries of profound inquiry.
It really gives it weight. So considering this vast historical landscape we've touched on, here's something to think about. What single aspect of these early meditation practices resonates most deeply with your own sense of inner peace or well-being today? And what might that tell you about your own path of exploration? Something to mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the origins of meditation.